Hello. In this video we will go over all the features that Light Control offers and a bunch of quick tips and tricks at the end of the video. If you haven't installed the add-on yet, there's a video on the YouTube channel which you can follow along to get started. In Light Control you can spawn lights really fast. To do so, you can press Shift plus E to create a new light source. Once you do it, you will be prompted with a pie menu where you can select the light type you want to add. When you click on a light type, a lot of things happen at once. First thing you see was a circle disappearing fast, showing you a light was spawned at this location. This location is the pivot of the light. Then there's a dotted line connecting the pivot and the light consists out of its origin point, its radius, and the angle lines. On the bottom right corner you see that you're in light edit mode and you see the name of the light. On the left side you see a bunch of options you now have and the option to save and exit light edit mode. To create a light you have to be over an object with your mouse. So when you're not over an object with your mouse and you press Shift plus E, you are prompted with a warning saying no object under mouse cursor. To enter the light edit mode again, you have to have the light selected and then either press the top button called Edit or press the E key on your keyboard. The first tool we are going to take a look at is the Orbit tool. You can access it with pressing space. Once you press space, you see on the left that the UI changed and that on your cursor there are now two arrows indicating azimuth and elevation. When you move your mouse, you now notice that the light orbits around the pivot. Orbiting vertically will orbit the light vertically, orbiting horizontally will do so as well. On the left you see there are a bunch of options you can now choose in addition to that orbiting. For example, pressing Shift will allow you to slowly change the rotation. Pressing R will rotate the light randomly, and pressing X and Y will rotate the light on only the constrained axes. To approve what you just did with that operator and go back to light edit mode, you can press left click, or to decline and revert the changes you made, you can press right click. The next operator we are going to take a look at is the grab operator, allowing you to reposition your pivot and your light. When you press G, the pivot is located at your mouse position on the object your mouse is hovering over. So moving your cursor to another object will snap it to there. The light follows accordingly. There is a different mode than the snap to object mode, which you can toggle with pressing space. This is the move along camera plane mode. This allows you to move your setup along the camera plane. The next operator we are going to take a look at is distance. When pressing D, you can adjust the distance between your light pivot and your light. One thing to keep in mind is that the further the distance, the stronger the light will get. This is to cancel out any effect from the inverse square law, resulting in an even lighting at the pivot position, even though your light source is very far away. One thing to keep in mind though is that once the numbers get too high, for example here we are at the 1200 meters distance and 100 megawatt of power, things get really sketchy. So keep that in mind when working with distance. The next operator can only be accessed once you have advanced options enabled. So enabling advanced options is as easy as pressing F4 and go to your preferences, then go to the light control panel and under UI visibility, enable Show Advanced UI. This will give you a bunch more options, but it's more confusing when learning light control. So when we now go into the light edit mode again, we see a bunch more options, including focus. When we press F for focus, then we will get a similar result to what we get when we press G for grab. But with the difference that we, additionally to moving the light pivot and the light source, we also control where the reflection of the light goes. This can be really handy if you want to control the reflection of, for example, a rim light or a specific part you want to light. The next mode of focus is the normal. This positions your light at the normal of the surface you're hitting. This is especially useful when lighting diffuse objects and wanting to get a specific angle in. To change the brightness of your light, you can use the brightness operation pressing B. This will allow you to change the brightness very easily. Changing the size is done with pressing the S key. When you press the S key, you can change the size. With pressing X and Y, you can constrain the axis of the size changing operation. If you want to change the angle of your light, you can do it with pressing A. This controls the beam shape property in your light and is especially useful when you want to focus your light. Sometimes just a little spread can change your lighting look, and it's really good to have that option. When you want to change your color of the light, you can do it with pressing C. This brings you to the color operation. This operation might be a little confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's relatively simple. On the horizontal axis, you change the saturation of your color. So once you're at 100, the color is fully saturated. When you move the vertical axis, you change the hue of your color. Combining hue and saturation gives you the ability to change your color really precisely. When you want to choose from black body colors, you can press space, allowing you to change your colors in the black body realm from 15,000 Kelvin to 1000 Kelvin. When you want to have a random Kelvin temperature, you can press R. And interestingly enough, when you switch from temperature to color, light control tries to give you a similar color to the color you just had in the other mode. So this will go to an orange. And when you go to a blue, for example, and then switch to Kelvin, it will try to get the closest Kelvin according to that. The next options are only available when you're under Preferences in the Light Control add-on Show Advanced UI. Once you've done that and you press E, you see that you can manage lights, namely choose the next and the previous light, add a new light, delete a light, and show and hide the UI. Let's start first with showing and hiding the UI. You can do that with pressing the V key. When you do that, no UI is visible anymore. This is quite handy when you want to evaluate your light situation and don't be distracted by any gizmo. When you want to change your light to the next, you use the arrow key or you use your mouse wheel. When you want to create a new light, you can do that with pressing E or Shift E, and then a new light will be created at your cursor's position. Deleting a light is done with X. So last but not least, let's go over some quick tips. First quick tip has to do with speeding up your workflow. So when you don't always want to approve all the changes you make with a right or a left click, but you want to go faster reducing clicks, you can go to Preferences and enable hold input keys instead of pressing. Once you've activated that, you can now hold the operations to perform them and let go once you've finished. This will allow you to make changes really quickly, but it also needs some time to get used to. In case you don't like the shortcut of editing the light, you can go to the button on the top, press right click and change the shortcut. In case you want to change the shortcut of creating a light, you can go to Preferences, Key Map, and then search for Light Control and change the keyboard shortcut in here. Light Control allows you to control lights that aren't even created with Light Control. So when you have a light which was created normally, you would expect it to not have a pivot. In that case, when you first edit it, Light Control will add a pivot at the location the light is hitting, so at here. So this light now has a pivot as well and can be used with Light Control. If you move a light not from within Light Control but within Blender, this pivot here will remain the same, so the light will orient to the pivot once you edit it again. There is a hidden operation in Light Control which did not quite deserve a place in the UI, but might be useful from time to time, but very rarely. It's the tilt operation. When you press T, you can tilt your light so it will be at an angle. You can reset the tilt with R, and when you orbit your light after tilting it, it will remain tilted.